You know what sucks? 在社交场合听到了一个笑话，尝试的将这个笑话记下来，希望可以跟公司的同事分享。但是在说的时候啊，就是好像说不到那种感觉，然后就变得非常的尴尬。我想可能你也有这样子的经历，但是为什么呢？ Just why does the joke fall flat?Hello， 欢迎来到 Executive Plus 主管与沟通力的 Podcast. I'm Sherry, an educator, certified coach, and style enthusiast. 我相信专业有效的沟通是语言跟逻辑的完美结合。
And I'm Nick, a startup consultant, corporate trainer, and late-night gaming junkie. I believe great communication requires the right mindset and solid frameworks.
我们希望带给大家职场英语的技能、跨文化沟通技巧与其他能帮助您成为出色领导者的工具。
Join us each week as we share our experience, research, and methodologies to take your communication and language skills from good to great. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Executive Plus podcast. A couple episodes ago, we talked about what are the baseline techniques for writing a good joke. Well, writing a joke is only half of the battle. How you deliver it is something that's incredibly important both for joke telling and communication in general. So today, we want to talk about the keys of delivering a good joke.
Now again, from the book LOL 101, the author himself actually lists out a couple of things that makes the delivery actually worked for a joke. 那我觉得其实在跟我们之前讲到 presentation, having a conversation 等等 or even small talk, 其实他们都有一些 commonality, 也就是你怎么说其实也是非常的重要 like your tone, your voice, the variation of your tone, that becomes part of the joke itself or part of the conversation itself.
And this is very, very similar to anything when it comes to delivering a presentation, delivering a speech, even something as simple as like standing up and giving a toast. How you do the delivery, what the steps are to make sure that it happens is a large part of public speaking and communication. And probably the easiest way to test this or to train yourself to do this is by having fun with jokes and how you do joke delivery. So in the book, he actually talks about 6 specific steps to telling a joke. The first step being is know exactly what you're going to say. Now, part of telling a joke is actually knowing the joke, knowing the entirety of it, having the right words. There's a very famous example of that where George Bush, the US president, tries to say a very common phrase, which is fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And he completely butchers it, right? Part of that maybe he just wasn't prepared. He was nervous. He wasn't a great speech giver in general. But then it becomes a meme, pre-memes really existing where he's like, we have a saying in Texas, I think you have this down in Tennessee too, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, can't get fooled again, right? This becomes a national joke, but he just wasn't really prepared. He knew what he wanted to say, but he hadn't prepared properly, and it goes horribly wrong. So when presenting, when giving a speech, unless you're a very natural, articulate person who can just let things flow, preparation is really important. So know exactly what you're going to say.
Now, the second thing is actually don't rush it. I think a lot of times when we're nervous or we're expecting for some sort of results, right? 你在 tell a joke 的时候，你可能会觉得我很希望听到他们笑，或者你希望有某一个的 expectation, then you tend to rush to the end of it. And that's the worst thing you can do in a joke because you gotta leave that time for the audience to understand what you're talking about and let it marinate.
So same with in presentation or giving a speech. We've talked about the importance of pauses. We've talked about the importance of silence. That very often leaving these moments for your audience to absorb what's been said, what's going on, or even creating suspense is really important. So don't rush things. Don't just shoot through a joke in order to get through the joke. So if I was to tell a simple children's joke and I said something like, which bird is sad all the time? A bluebird. That has a very different sitting than I'm like, which bird is sad all the time? A bluebird. Haha. Right? Don't rush. Let the joke sit. Let your audience absorb.
Now, the third tip is to actually be excited about it. Be excited to tell the joke. And I think it's the same for anything. Basically, if you're doing it for the wrong reason, basically, if you want to just seem like, oh, I want to seem funny, and then maybe that takes the excitement away from you, that takes that intention away from you, then the joke itself, it just feels very different. 那我觉得其实在 presentation, small talk, 各式各样的情况一样，如果你的心不在那边, if your heart is not in it, then I think the whole entire feel to it, and it's just different.
And this ties directly into the fourth guideline, which is don't just recite the words. You should get quieter. You should add suspense. You should get louder to show excitement or enjoyment. Part of being excited to tell a joke is in, the methods you use. And the same for a presentation. We've all seen people stand on stage, read from slides, show no emotion. My biggest example of this is one time when I was doing my master's, they had invited this professor who was an expert at eye tracking. Like this person was supposed to be one of the foremost people on eye tracking when it comes to reading. And that person literally leaned on the podium, facing away from the audience, and just put a pointer on his PowerPoint slides and just read it out loud. No emotion, no intonation. The first row of the auditorium was the professors. Everyone behind was students, and they turned out the lights. Everyone except for the first row was dead asleep by the time this presentation was over. Not on their phone, bored, asleep. This is how bad this was. And so a friend of mine who happened to be a professor was like, hey, what did you think of that speech? And I'm like, did you turn around? That was horrible. This guy had no interest in what he was saying. He was just reciting, and it was not exciting. If you didn't care about this topic, you walked away hating this topic rather than not caring about it.
Right. And then what's important is that as a speaker, you have to actually really care about what you wanted to say and actually show that you care about it, right? 如果你没有任何的 excitement, 甚至你可能你的声音是 monotone. 我觉得不管你准备了多久，或者准备了多充足，还是一样，大家还是会觉得 Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever.
And so being excited, acting it out, and then the next guideline of specifically for joke telling is act out the characters in your joke. But you'll even notice in TED Talks, when someone talks about a quote they've heard or when someone talks about a conversation they've had, they'll usually act it out a little bit. It's not over the top crazy, but they'll give a little bit of flavor, a little bit of emphasis on this is what I said, this is what my customer said, and really give you a sense of being in that moment.
当然我觉得并不是每一个人都很会去模仿人家的声音啦。像我 Nick knows this, I'm worst at imitating accents. I'm so
Which is what makes the jokes even funnier.
I'm so bad. But I couldn't help myself sometimes. But now I'm learning, okay, you don't actually need to do the accent, especially if the accent itself could be a little bit if you wanted to do Indian accent and you suck at it and you just ended up kind of seems like you're making fun of people, don't do it. 你只是稍微的改变你的声音一点点，我觉得就 OK 了。
So I'm going to give you a variation of my favorite type of joke. And then, again, following these guidelines and not following these guidelines. There are two muffins sitting in an oven. One muffin looks at the other muffin and says, "Does it feel hot to you?" The other muffin looks at him and goes, "Ah, talking muffin!"
Nick loves this joke.
Okay, I love this joke. It's so simple. Children love it. If you tell any kid this joke, they just crack up. But even adults, because it's so ridiculous. Again, notice, I'm not just reciting. I pause a little bit. I have some points. I use different tones of voice to show the first muffin versus the second muffin.
Right.
But you could tell that same joke and just be like, there are two muffins sitting in an oven. One muffin looks at the other muffin and goes, does it feel hot to you? The second muffin looks at him and goes, talking muffin. Now I just sound like the Law and Order narrator. It's not that interesting. It's not that exciting. It's the exact same words. But what happens when you just act it out and enjoy the joke?
Yeah.
Now, the very last guideline they give for telling a joke is you need to pause before the punchline, which means there needs to be a separation between your setup and your ending. Yeah. And that's also the same as any presentation. We talked about the power of silence, the power of pauses. When you're emphasizing a point, if you just jump into the point, like I have 3 things to say, 1, blah, 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 2, blah, 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 3, blah, 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 your audience could not absorb that information. So you have to set it up in a presentation the same as you would with a joke, where it's like, there are just 3 things I want to cover with you today. The first is this. The second is this. Those pauses and that separation to really highlight what I want to say is critical, the same as with a joke as in a speech or presentation.
千万不要害怕这种 silent。我觉得有很多人很害怕 pausing 或者是这种 before the punchline， 可能是因为他有点等不及，也是不知道有点对于这种没有声音的时候会有点不知所措。So definitely respect the silence and actually utilize that, because it actually will give you all the advantage that you need when you're telling a joke or a presentation.
So let's put this all together and I'll give you another variation of my favorite joke line. There are 2 whales in the ocean. One whale looks at the other whale and goes, boo, boo. The other whale looks at him and goes, the hell did you just say to me? Again,
so stupid.
so stupid. But you can't help but laugh at it because it's so ridiculous. All of these things come into play. Being excited about it. Don't rush it. Right? If I'd been like, one whale looks at the other whale in the ocean, and just think of like a really excited 5-year-old kid who's like, I have a joke. There are 2 whales in the ocean. One whale looks at the other whale. You got to slow it down. You just got to let it be there. And then the characterization, right? Anyone with a straight face who can make whale sounds, like you just win.
Yeah, I respect that.
You have to respect anyone who can make whale sounds. The very first time I heard this joke was we were doing a track workout. And it was like beginning of the season, so you have to do a lot of cardio. So we either would have to like swim or we'd actually have to tread water for 45 minutes. And so we would tell jokes to literally just pass the time. And one of my track mates told this joke. And with a completely straight face, he just starts making these whale sounds in an indoor swimming pool. So it's just echoing. So it's not just our group anymore. Like literally everyone around is just staring at him like, what is happening? And he doesn't break character. He just goes through the whole joke. And we just died laughing because, yeah, it's just like straight face making whale sounds.
He commit to that character, right?
Right, yeah. So it's like one of those things where like if you tell that joke and you make the whale sounds for like more than 15 seconds, it's one of those things where it's like funny and then it's weird and then it's just hilarious. So commit to the joke, act out the characters, and then again that pause when it's like the other whale looks at him and says, what the hell did you just say to me? Right? If I had just said the other whale looks at him and says, what the hell did you just say to me? You lose that emphasis. So when you set up that very end, the other whale looks at him and says, what the hell did you just say to me? That's that anticipation. It's that suspense. But it's also that turnaround. Remember in our last joke episode, we talked about something that's a counterintuitive, where I just made whale sounds. So now someone might be expecting me to make whale sounds again, and then I just speak in normal English or Chinese, however you want to translate it. It creates that, That's funny. It's an effect.
Right.
All right. Well, we hope that you understood the fundamentals and enjoyed the fundamentals of joke making. They are very similar to delivering a speech, delivering a presentation. These guidelines are something that you can follow anytime you need to get on stage and talk in front of an audience. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The Executive Plus podcast is a Presentality Group production, produced and hosted by Sherry Fang and Nick Howard. You can search us on Facebook, 主管英文 Executive Plus. You can also find us on Instagram, Communication R&D, and email us at sherry@epstyleplus.com.